All right. G'day, hi. Take two. G'day, hi, and welcome. Welcome. That's what I said. It's dark in here. It's very dark in here. But it's +5 out there. Had good daily squirrel. I got shaken down by a squirrel today. I am King Reggie, master of this, the leader of squirrels. There's a little black squirrel. I saw one got hit yesterday. Poor little guy. And I saw another one today, right at the same place, about midway through the town. And he watched me go to the store. I get to the store. There's been a squirrelification of the store to keep the squirrels out. Anyway, she showed me all the new reno that they did there, just to, fix up the place in the back storage because the squirrels are getting in there. He's not getting in now. I said, don't be so, they're crafty. I said, yeah, you never know. Anyway, on my way back, open my chips, eat my chips because it's Friday. TGIF, toes going first. Also, thank God it's Friday. And happy, what do you call it? Passover, right? Yeah. Anyway, Good Friday. A good Friday to you. Anyway, what do you call it? I see the black squirrel, and I'm walking, and you see him doing it. He's starting to do this. As the closer I get, the faster his hands start get going. He's like, and it's kind of like, I don't know if he used his squirrel telepathy, but a chip in my hand just before I get to him falls on the ground. I'm like, he's like, that's mine. Yeah, so he got a free chip. I won't forget that. All right, so all right, something okay with all the biblical stuff going on with like Hegseth and stuff like. Would they try to do Armageddon on Sunday? It's like Jesus is coming back this Sunday. Like we're gonna have the rapture. Blah blah blah. You never know. Like maybe that's what, because there is a whole bunch of space rocks smacking the crap out of the planet, a little bit higher than usual. It's got, I forget the name of the space rock that's, or comet or whatever the hell it is. It's flinging a lot of stuff out of you. You're seeing these like, so I'm like, is it like, is it Wormwood, like the Wormwood prophecies, and then Armageddon, and then oh yeah, who knows? It's kind of dark out there. It could be 3 days of dark, guys. Who knows? I mean, I got a little bit of JD in this one, like not even a finger, like just enough that you could taste it, because I can't get that anymore, right? So, and yeah, so like I put less in each week. Like a finger's too much, like for that much Pepsi, like it's too much. Like it just barely like just a drop like that barely covers the bottom of the glass. And that seems to be about the perfect blend for flavor, where it's not just overpowering with whatever, right? Because for me, it's not about getting drunk or anything. It's just about a Friday ritual, right? But yesterday, yeah, I talked to Paul, so we're not working at the school this weekend because it's Easter. My nephew did an Easter egg hunt with his school yesterday. He found 3 or 4 eggs. They get prizes for the eggs and stuff like that. And good for him. So he's off today, and so Sunday I'm not working. But I did a little. Went over again. I was kind of surprised because my client wasn't supposed to come back till today, but we thought John and I thought we were going to be delaying her for at least 3 or 4 days. So I wasn't expecting to see her till about Monday or Tuesday. But she came back 2 days early. That caught me off guard. So I went yesterday. I was like, okay. But everything's working out, so that's good. So the good news is next week I get paid 2 jobs, like 2 winter jobs. Hopefully it'll help out. I think it's going to be a late start to the season just because there's so much snow in the ground. Like I'm still walking on about 2.5 feet of snow just to get into the house. Like it's went down about 4 feet. So it was a lot of snow this year. Like That is a lot of snow this year. But we need it, and we need the slow melt so that it's not too hot and dry. Because God knows what it's going to be like in the coming weeks. Like the financial devastation that's just hitting people. People are doing bank runs for sure. I don't give financial advice because you're not allowed to. You get sued, right? But what I say for myself is I'm not going to keep any more money in the bank than I'm willing to lose, which for me is not very much. But there's some in there, you know what I mean? Like, I got about 3 grand in there or something like that. But that's all like for bills and for the vehicle and whatever. Still no word on that car, but Paul was asking me about it. Oh, what? So what's going on with the car? I said, I don't know. No clue. But we'll see. We'll see. Um. Anyway, last night. Okay, so Trump did the speech the night before, right? All lies, lie, 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 lie. He didn't declare victory. He says, but he's looking for a way to get out of it soon. But he can't betray the Israelis; they'll kill him, right? But that said, Trump's again the Iranians like they're well, we can't call it passive aggressive because these hypersonic ballistic rocks are full of aggression, right? It's like Trump. They've got no navy. They've got no air force. They've barely got any rockets left. And I think Israel got like 200 rockets last night. Like it just this one wham! Like they're so fast. It's just like wow, wow. Now the Iranians, I can imagine their building facilities are pretty darn good. They must be fairly state of the art. So you imagine like when the West starts doing that, like hopefully Canada, I'm hoping our military planners are looking at rocket systems. Like it'd be the best thing to keep the Americans, the Chinese, and the Russians out should they all decide to invade us at once, right? And I know we have rocket trucks on the go, such as the HIMARS, for about 30 of them or whatever, but 30 is not enough. You can't defend a country with just 30 rocket launchers. 300, maybe. Like Poland's going to be building something like 300 or 400 of these things. But can't buy the HIMARS because it's American, right? Because, same problem we have with the F-35. But the deal was already in the works, so I don't know if we'll get them. The best rocket trucks I think out there is the Hanway rocket truck and the what you call it the Rheinmetall rocket truck. Rheinmetall makes some pretty cool air defense things and stuff like that. The problem is it takes so long to get the procurement right. We need it now. So what I'm thinking is like Canada has to start building. Like I think we fired off all our ADATS missiles, right? And we have a lot of labs. We have like 900 of them. Most of them are overseas, but we still have a few hundred left in Canada at any one time. And I think rather than having a 25 millimeter main gun, pull because they already have it's already been done with Rheinmetall's done it. Um, you know, CanSec has done it. Whatever, where they take a lab and they put an ADATS on it, which is cheaper to run than so take the Lav 3s that are keep the Lav 6s for the front line stuff. Our new Lav 6s they're pretty cool. Like I think by 2027 we're going to be building like hundreds of them. Like so I don't know if they're going to be complete replacement for all the old. They're called the Super Bison, and it's a Lav 6 Mark II. Got a 30 millimeter Bushmaster on there, and 2 spike anti-tank weapons, right? And then I don't know if it's 7 millimeter or 7.62. I know at one point, like on our Leopard 2A6s, we were putting the 7 millimeter, like 7 millimeter, like 7 mm, not 7 mm 08, 7 mm. Problem is, they burn out like it's hard hitting. Like that's for shooting moose. You'd say but the 7.62 is a bigger round. Yeah, but the 308 is 7.62 by 51. Okay, 7 millimeters about I think it's like like a 30-06, but with a 7 millimeter bullet. I've shot 7 millimeter rifle rounds. I love the 7 millimeter. It just shoots. It's like the 270 is a pretty awesome hunting round. Probably one of the best hunting rounds ever devised. You know, flat like the 308, hitting power of the 30-06. Well, the 7mm is like a third more hitting power than the 30-06 or something like that, and just like a laser beam. Yeah, like it's a great round. Anything bigger than that, like a 7mm can, a 308 can kill an elephant. 7mm would definitely kill an elephant. Although it might not be the a charging elephant, maybe not. You know what I mean? But yeah, like yeah, you lung shoot an elephant with a 7 millimeter. Yeah, 30-06, 7 millimeter. They'll kill any animal on the planet. With a well placed shot. Cape buffalo might be a little bit trickier, but like again, emphasis on the well placed shot, right? So it's got that much hitting power. It just might not drop him. He might run 2 miles before he dies, right? Anyway, I digress. So the rockets and drones are the wave of the future. The anti-drone technology is what everybody's working on now. The best at it is the Ukrainians. They a lot of people pick on the Ukrainians for a lot of things. Oh, they're losing. Yes, they are losing to a much larger force. There's no doubt about that. And Putin's getting about to crack the whip on them because of the attacks into Russia. But as powerful as Russia is, if they're not the number two, they're the number three military in the world. Size-wise, China's the largest, just for sheer numbers. Most advanced is the Americans, followed by probably the Russians. So different attributes to each one, right? But that said, these are the three biggest militaries on the world, and everybody. I think North Korea is like number 4, and then it just drops drastically from there. We're like 48th largest military. We were the 17th most capable military at one point. I don't know where we're at now, but our capabilities are going up, and our size is going up ever so slightly. So Ukraine and Canada were almost like neck and neck. Now Ukraine, they're larger because the war, right? They conscripts and everything like that, and draft and all that. But the Ukrainians, yes, the first 6 months, 8 months of the war, yes, they lost guys. Just meat grinder, right? Just absolute meat grinder. But the Russians lost a lot of guys too. Now, like with the Ukrainians, you never see them moving, or the Russians, you never see them moving around for more than, say, batches of 3 to 5 guys at a time, right? Why? Because you lose too many guys when you put 30 guys together. Like you can't do like German style blitzkriegs anymore. Or Soviet style blitzkriegs anymore because like human waves, you'll just lose everybody so quick. You know what I mean? So human waves don't work. And are we about to see the, Omaha Beach D-Day human wave, or like Iwo Jima, human wave, American human waves in Iran? That'd be a disaster. It'd be an absolute disaster. So the Ukrainians, though, like they've been training NATO guys, and like NATO has found out that nothing it's doing is working. Like it doesn't work. You would be killed if we were to go up against the Russians right now. They would slaughter us in seconds. Why? Because they're fighting a total different warfare. They're not fighting a World War II style warfare anymore. In that case, the Americans still hold they're the king dogs. If you send up your MiG-29 to meet the F-35s, you might lose, right? You're most likely going to lose, or the F-22s or the F-15s or whatever. You're going to get your ass kicked, right? However, you fly your F-15s or F-22s or F-35s over heavy air defense and like everything, basically dug into the mountain. You're risking your guys, like everybody's talking about the A10s, They think it's going to be like Desert Storm. The A10s by the end of, I think they said 2005 was the worst year for A10 losses. Look, the British had the PFA tornado. Was it? Oh, sorry, Pava tornado, right? And those things, the idea was you flow like nap of the earth, like 30 feet above the ground, 50 feet above the ground, at like 700 miles an hour, kind of like what the Su-24s were designed to do. And you come in low under the radar and you take out the target. Well, the British lost almost a dozen of the most state-of-the-art $40 million aircraft at the time in Iraq or Afghanistan trying to do that. They had to then say, okay, well, yeah, the low-level flights don't work. We have to go up to 30,000 feet. And this is what's been happening with the A-10s. You have to bomb from 30,000 feet. The only attribute the A-10 really has is two. Well, three. Number one, it's a tough aircraft. Okay, it is hard to shoot down at distance. It's very survivable. It's the most survivable airplane ever built. That nobody can argue against that. It can take a hit. The second most survivable would either be a B-17 or a P-47. Then after that, maybe a frog foot. You know what I mean? But the thing is that the second capability is that big gun, right? The third is its range. Why? Because you can get like a 1,600 mile or 2,000 mile range off of internal range. A fourth attribute is that you can take off at just about any runway. So this is really the tool for the job. So what's the problem? Well, you can't put a big ass gun, Gatling gun, on the front of your aircraft and still have a big ass radar, right? So it lacks that, that sophistication, which means it can drop chaffs and flares and has a little bit of counter electronic warfare, but it doesn't have the adequate amount to go against heavily contested air defense systems. And at 20,000 feet, 30,000 feet, sure, you might be out of the AAA threat, but you are definitely you're not fast enough at 450 miles an hour. You're not going to get away from a MADPAD launcher that's coming at you at Mach 3.2. You know what I mean? And such. So they're going to have 810. Guys, they're still using standoff munitions. They're not just, I can imagine the odd aircraft made it over Tehran, but not too many. And how many drones have been shot down or hijacked by the Iranians? We don't know. They're not going to tell us, right? So when Trump was out there saying that, Iran's got nothing left in the tank, they're about to surrender, blah, blah, blah. The Iranian propaganda, the Iranian propaganda is still in full swing for one reason only, because you haven't destroyed those facilities, right? So it means they still have power. It means they still have access to internet. It still means they can do all these things, right? So you haven't degraded them that much. So what we're going to see is are we going to see B-52 bombing runs like over like Hanoi or the Ho Chi Minh Trail? Again, are they about to Gaza the place? Probably. Why? Because if you can't win, you got to kick over the apple cart, right? So they start doing that. The Iranians are going to counter so hard. And again, the Israeli doesn't care about the Gulf states, so they don't care how many millions will die. But in one night, the Iranians can, 400 desalination plants. You don't even have to completely destroy them. You just have to disrupt them, because it's going to, no matter what you hit, it's going to take more than 3 days to repair. And guess what? In 3 days, you're out of, and if they hit the reservoirs on top of that, it's less than 3 days. Within 3 days, almost half the Middle East could be dying, dead from thirst. People will be drinking ocean water just to survive. They'll die from that, right? The Iranians have all the cards here. So Trump hit one of the biggest bridges, I think, in Tehran yesterday. It's more symbolism than anything. It's not really strategic, right? Because they've ran out of target, like all the targets that they've hit very little that, like, they've had very little effect to the Iranian military. Yes, they've killed civilians. They've killed a decapitated, tried decapitation strike. Uh, but they don't have the Asiatic model of basically you cut the head off the dragon and the dragon dies. No, they have a Hydra model where it doesn't matter. You kill one Ayatollah, the next one's going to be a week away. It's just a matter of ceremony and formalities who the next guy is going to be. Same with the generals. Like there's always the up and coming. You know what I mean? Like like they train their guys for that. Because they've seen it done. They've seen it done to, like the disarray. Okay, well, we saw what happened to the Republican Guard in Iraq, right? You killed this leader, the rest of the guys don't know what to do, right? Where the Persians aren't like that, where they're kind of saying, hey, no, if the main guy gets killed, you take care of your sector, you do the autonomous in your sector, you do the autonomous in your sector, and once we can establish communication again, we'll coordinate again. So it's an absolute hydra. Like it doesn't matter. You kill one, it's like a government within a government within a government within a government within like a command structure within a command structure within. Like it's just everything has so much autonomy to it that by the time you decapitated the last general that could be possibly wielded, you've been fighting a 15-year war. You know what I mean? Like and if the like this rate of war, okay, if you look at the rate of the war of World War I, World War II, okay, World War I, World War II, World War One, you ended up in a stalemate about a few months in, and it stayed that for like the rest of the war, right? Like World War One wasn't as widespread, even though at the time it was the largest conflict in human history at the time, right? And then only to be eclipsed by World War II. And then everything since World War II has kind of been a bit smaller. Korea wasn't that big, right? When you think of where the battles took place in Korea, like it wasn't as like there was missions per day of aircraft going in trying to blow stuff up, but there wasn't like 10 fronts open. You know what I mean? Like it wasn't like that. It was basically the 38th parallel and just holding the line. That was pretty much what it was. Vietnam, you had fronts all over the place, but even at that, when you consider it, most of it was air campaign. Most of it. Like yes, there was guys crawling through the jungle everywhere, blah blah blah. But when you really look at like battles, like there was maybe like a 1/1000th of the amount of battles in Vietnam that there was in World War II, right? And World War II, okay, there was battles all over the place. It was the largest conflict to date in terms of just scope and size. So many countries. I mean, basically, all of Europe was pretty much embroiled in this thing, and half of Southeast Asia. You know what I mean? So yeah, it was over, and it was even into the northern Africa, right? So it was very big. And then if you really want to say, okay, well, the U-boat excursions to North America, you could even say that in the attack on Pearl Harbor. But after the attack on Pearl Harbor, that was kind of it, right? For anything that happened in the States, right? Then we get to Desert Storm, isolated in the Middle East. Then 9/11, we get Iraq and Afghanistan. 2009, we get Libya. So it's a regional war. Then 2010, we get basically Syria, right? And in 2012, 2013, the beginning stages of Ukraine, right? And now the last, like the last man standing, so to speak, is Iran, right? Until the new batch of Zionist targets such as Turkey, UAE, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, Egypt, I don't know, maybe some other excursions into Africa somewhere else. Like again, the idea of Israel taking out Turkey. The only way they can do that is get the United States involved. Like the United States would have to go to war with Turkey, but I do believe Turkey and Germany are still going to go to war, and Spain and Italy are going to be, and Greece are going to be on the side of Germany, and it's probably going to be a spill off out of something out of this. It'd probably start over like Israel and Turkey going to war over Cyprus, right? The Turks have kind of like stuck their thumb in the eye of the Israelis a few times. They don't like that, right? Because you can't really subvert the Turks with Jewish subversion. It doesn't work there. The Turks are pretty nationalistic and they're pretty homogeneous, right? So same like the Chinese. Like you can't get your Jewish Zionist subversion in China. Like they've tried, but like it's like the Chinese like, yeah, no, we're a dynasty. We're not doing that. We're Han Chinese and that's it. Yeah, we don't even like the freaking Tibetans. And then the Uyghurs. Oh, the Uyghurs. Oh, the Uyghurs. Yeah, the Turkish Uyghurs. Yes. When I hear like even Pierre Poilievre go on about the Uyghurs and persecution of the Uyghurs and stuff like that, and it's like you do realize who the Uyghurs are, right? They're like one of the prominent ISIS groups. Like they're one of the prominent tribes that join the ISIS guys. The Philippines is just fucking infested with them. The Duterte, was doing airstrikes on their towns just to get rid of them, right? Because over there, they don't put up with that, right? The Japanese, yeah. They're keeping the Turkish Uyghurs at bay too, right? You just don't hear about it because Japan's not an ally. So a lot of times, when you get these, how's the best way to put it? Like, okay, we hate Donald Trump, so we're going to support this guy, right? We hate Joe Biden, so we're going to support that guy, right? That's all you're seeing. And what's bad about that is that it gets people believing that they're it's like the Tamil Tiger thing here in Canada, right? Where like they're clearly a terrorist. And what's that other ones that are always the Sikhs and the Hindus there that are always talking about Canada's this is their territory. What the fuck are they called? Anyway, whatever. They're from that area of the world, and the thing is that like, oh, you bring them in because they're just poor refugees. Yeah, but the reason why they're persecuted is because they're the terrorists in that area, right? And I don't care who's the terrorist first. I don't care if it was the Jews that were the terrorists first or the Iranians that were the terrorists first. Keep them over there. I don't like any of them. Maybe on an individual basis, like you can like some of them, but as groups, I don't like them. No, like Iranians are not compatible with the West in general, and Israelis are not compatible with the West in general. Jews as a group, most of them are anti-West. Whether they're hyper-individualist, whether they're like libertarian hyper-individualist, or they're communist, Bolshevik, George Soros types, or they're the Zionist neocon. We have to go to war with everybody and kill all the Goy and all the Europeans because they're the Amalek or Edom and all that crazy stuff. It doesn't matter. They're not compatible with the West, as a group. Individually, fine, but how do you vet, right? So it's just easiest just to keep them out. Call it racism, bigotry, but that works. Birds of a feather flock together, it works. It might not be nice, but again, like same like with the migrant crisis, all these like stabby refugees, you know what I mean? Like I'm sure a lot of these people are good people. I have no doubt about that. But you're leaving it up to us to have to suffer the consequences of trying to figure out who the good guys are and who the ones that are going to run peace trucks over you or stab you or whatever, right? It's too much to ask of a population. Hence why even in the European like the European Union has jumped on, like they know there's only so far they're going to be able to take this, right? Because they were trying to do like, yes, with the migrant crisis, 2015 migrant crisis, which again, because of what Israel had done, us destabilizing Libya. Muammar Gaddafi again, he said, "Look, I'm the only thing that's keeping the jihadists out of Europe." Yeah, he was a dictator. There's no doubt about that. But he was stability in the region. So was Saddam Hussein. That's why the Israelis want to get rid of him. They don't want stability in the region. They want all these tribals fighting because it's like Henry Kissinger's MSSN 200. You arm up both proxy groups, and they wipe each other. Like if you can get the Turks and the Kurds killing each other, okay, then they might kill each other and weaken each other enough that when you go to take them out, neither of them can form a defense against you. You get the ISIS guys killing the Syrians, um, you know, whatever. But anyway, yeah. So in the EU, they're like, yeah, we're going to be again. It's the language of it versus what will be in practice. A lot of people say, "Oh, look, we're winning," but you're not winning. They're going to send like 3 people back. But what they're doing is making it easier to deport illegal migrants, right? Um, like because like now it's like with that new ISIS guy running Syria. That's the guy they wanted. They didn't want Assad because Assad was the dictator. And when you track it, like Assad was sure, he was a dictator. Sure, they're all dictators. It's the Middle East. They all have to be dictators. It's the Middle East. You know what I mean? The Middle East mindset is a very violent mindset. It's of the people, right? Not all of them, but like they're very, like it's well documented. Like I don't even think anybody from the Middle East would disagree that the Middle East is not a violent place, right? It's very like it's very volatile. So even if Israel wasn't there, like the Arabs would be fighting amongst themselves, right? It's just most of the regions after the fall of the Ottoman Empire were starting to stabilize, especially Syria. And the thing about that was you couldn't have that. You couldn't have a true secular society in the Middle East, which would be like Syria and Egypt, right? These would be the two. And Syria was like, yes, Assad's father was a dictator, sure, but he stabilized the place, right? Assad, yeah, same thing, yeah, stabilized the place. It was Israel and the United States predominantly arming ISIS, calling them moderate rebels, to overthrow, so that Syria would become such a violent sectarian disaster that it could never rise up against Israel, right? That's why they want to destabilize. That's why they want Iran to wipe out all the desalination plants and and stuff like that. So that they don't like the Israelis. They don't want to have to fight the Saudis later on, right? You had Lindsey Graham basically saying the quiet part out loud that basically, guarantees from like Saudi Arabia and stuff like that, that, like they'll never support anything that can harm Israel, blah, 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 all this stuff. And I mean, the Saudis aren't a problem to the Israelis. If anything, they march to their tune, right? Like the Saudi royals have a lot of connections to Israel. So, it's well documented, openly admitted. So, like, there's nothing's controversial, guys. Like that's the problem. Nothing's controversial. It's just openly admitted stuff that people gaslight about. Like it's a boot. We gotta say it properly. But Trump declares all that Iran's got no gas in the tank, but yet last night that was a fuck of a lot of gas in the tank. Now semi reports of 5,000 Israeli Mossad killed. I don't know about that. Uh, is it possible? I think it's highly possible. Like Iranian intelligence are going all through. Like they're. I mean, they might have like killed 5,000 people, saying they're Mossad, but do they know for sure? I don't think that's how the Iranians operate. I think it's just like, okay, well, there's a protest. Okay, whoever's like kind of spearheading the protest and what violence and whatever. Okay, look at the agent provocateurs, whether they're organic and our guys or they're secretly CIA or Mossad. If we kill them, we win. No, doesn't matter. There's like a 1 in 2 chance, or a 1 in 3 chance that they're going to kill a Mossad agent or a CIA agent. So, and if they kill one of their own troublemakers, well, that's the way the Iranians operate. So, did they kill 40,000 people? I don't know. Maybe they did. Not our cause. You know what I mean? That's up to the Iranian people to decide that. Right now, the majority of the Iranian people are supporting their military. They're supporting. Again, they might not love their government, but they now understand why the Iranian government was spending so much money on the military and not social programs. Because when you see indiscriminate U.S. liberation bombing, you realize that no, these people just want to fucking genocide you. That's what's going on. Like the one thing all the military analysts do not understand, even Professor Morandi, who's an Iranian himself living in Iran, hasn't quite caught on to it 100%. But he's close, but he's not like he because he's an intellectual guy. And the problem with intellectuals is they dismiss the obvious sometimes. That it's like it's never that simple, right? And sometimes yes, it is. So sometimes it's just Occam's razor. You know, the simplest answer is the correct one, right? And the simplest answer is if you look at Gaza, what did the Israelis do to Gaza after, October 7th? Well, they carpet bombed them. Why? Because were they going after terrorists? No. Were the Israeli intelligence one of the big bullshits that everybody we hit was a terrorist. You know what I mean? We're not killing any civilians. And then later it's on, okay, well, we killed 70,000 civilians and displaced 2 million. But, casualties of war, right? But what was it? It was like Dresden-style bombing. It was worse. They dropped more bombs on Gaza than was dropped on Dresden, Germany during World War II, which was a complete genocide against the Germans, in hindsight. Once they weren't able to, once the so-called enemy isn't able to fight back and you keep bombing them, that's genocide. You know what I mean? Like that's not, that's not modern war. That's just plain out ethnic cleansing. And that's what they did to the Palestinians is ethnic cleansing. So with the Iranians, a lot of people think, we don't know what the actual goal of this mission is. Well, they're eventually going to say it out loud, but they can't say it out loud yet. And what it is at first it was, nuclear program. Not making IEDs. Then it was because they were killing protesters. Then it was and Trump just kept, going through a roster of whatever buzzwords he could throw out, to justify the war. And we still don't have a proper justification of a war of choice, right? But there is one. And it's simple. Like if the Iranian air defense is ever completely taken out, and you could actually get air superiority over Iran, you will see about 450 B-52s carpet bombing Iran in the name of democracy, women and children, or whatever. But the goal is the number one target for the United States in Iran is Iranians. It's not decapitation strike and regime change. It's to kill every Iranian. Or at least half of them, or more than half of them. They've got to kill, the Israelis only have 7 to 9 million people in Israel, right? Minus whoever's been killed and whoever's left recently. And maybe about 40,000 Jews worldwide, right? So they have to make sure there's way less Iranians than there is Jews, right? So that means they have to kill all but about a couple of million, maybe 2 or 3 million Iranians if they want to be successful. You'd say, no, they would never do that. They're not that evil. Yeah, they're that evil. Listen to the Israelis. Trust me, they're evil. They're fucking evil, guys. They hate their own allies. They're already talking about going to war with allies. Like Turkey. Why the fuck would they go to war with Turkey? You know what I mean? And it's always some paranoid, hyper-neurotic Jewish fantasy of everybody's out to get them, right? And the thing is the reason why so many people hate them is because they keep doing these preemptive strikes and like that preemptive war. This was a preemptive war, right? It was a war of choice. This is why when Trump's bitching and kvetching about NATO not helping and never coming to the aid of the Americans and stuff like that, which is very insulting, number one. for all the allies that died, the only people to ever invoke Article 5 since 1948 or 46, League of Nations was 46, United Nations was NATO and stuff like that. It's like 1946 to 1948. Kind of a little bit scrambled on the year there, but in that time, right? So the only country to ever use Article 5 was the United States after 9/11. And almost like you had what? All these coalition forces. Canada, we were right there beside you. Britain, right there beside you. Our guys died. Our Canadians crawling through the caves of there was Hyena Road. There was like just all these Canadians getting killed and injured, and removing IEDs. Again, the largest ever stock cache of rebel weapons ever found by in any time in history was done by Canadians, right? And we blew it up. They had to go back. I forget how many miles. It was like 5 or 10 miles back before they could detonate it. Like it was just like, and even at that, the blast nearly knocked all the guys off their fucking out of their boots. It's like why? Because Canada. That's what we do. Oh yeah, that would have been fun blowing all that up. But again, guys with fucking knives and pistols crawling in after the Taliban in fucking caves. Like who does that? Canada. Right? And who was the best at it? Canada, right? Fucking crazy bastards, eh? And then have Trump just fucking dismiss that. You know what I mean? What's called like the Netherlands, basically, Denmark, they lost a shit ton of troops to now have them being insulted with that on top of being threatened, for annexation. Like it's just absolute crazy, just absolute crazy. But the thing is that if Trump is going to go scorched earth on the Iranians, like you could bomb Tehran and you'll kill 10 million or 18 million people, right? Like what's been done to the Iranians is unforgivable to them. Like whatever. But that said, if they really think they're going to just fly B-52s without getting shot down, look, B-52s were getting shot down over Vietnam, like in large numbers. And they were being shot down at 50,000 feet. Okay, that's like the 1960s, 1970s, okay, technology. The Iranians, no matter what their worst air defense system is, it's better than that. And you know what? That bomber is still the same bomber. Yes, it's got electronic warfare and all that, but it's still that big hunk of metal in the sky. It's the first or second largest bomber ever built, right? The B-52 is again, if you've ever seen them fly, it's something. They're actually kind of deceiving because they're very quiet for their size, right? They just make like this whistling sound. They're like an A-10. They're quiet. Like an A-10, you won't hear an A-10 coming in. When that guy comes in and he cuts the throttles, you just don't hear nothing. You just hear a whistling sound, and then even when he guns it, I've seen A-10 displays many times. Very impressive aircraft. The pilots, yes, these pilots, like the only difference between an A-10 pilot and an aerobatic pilot is 50,000 pounds. That's it. That's it. Like an A-10 is practically aerobatic, right? Good at low flight and slow flight. Really good at the delivering heavy weapons at slow flight. But that said, shitty against Mad Pad launchers, shitty against any sort of air defense, and okay against AAA out past, say, 1,500 meters or so, or almost a mile, right? 1.6 kilometers or 1,600 meters is a mile, right? Which is 1.1 nautical miles. Just, if you want perspective there. So anyway, the bottom line is that B-52s and A-10s won't survive in a heavily contested air, SAM site-rich, air defense system. So the question is, how many air defense systems do the Iranians have? So you took out their bridge, and in retaliation, they hit an American base really hard last night. You're getting some footage of American, like again, I know there's like a media blackout, so you're not going to see everything. In 5, 10 years, when we start getting the releases of the footage, um, it's going to be nightmares. Like you're watching soldiers, like, oh my god, that's coming right at us. You got guys there, curled in a ball, screaming because the rockets are hitting really close, and they know like they live, but the building right beside them, those guys are dead. So how many Americans are dead in this war? I don't know. It's got to be in the thousands by now. Israelis, it's got to be in the thousands. We know the Iranians are in the thousands, right? Now, once they start carpet bombing, hopefully the Iranian people, don't be there. Like, don't hover in your basement or whatever. Just like get the fuck out of if you have to take a bicycle, whatever, and a camel, I don't care. Like, don't be underneath a B-52 bombing. One B-52 can basically carpet bomb a 10-mile strip. The Ho Chi Minh Trail was like basically they bombed 10 miles at a time, 10 miles wide. Just all these 500 pounders coming down would be about 100 and some of them. The 2,000 pounder JDAM's order, they can still carry about over 100 of those. You know what I mean? Like, it's impressive what that machine can carry. Um, but that said, it's still contested airspace. Like you still have to, like the only way they're going to be able to, like a B-52 against the top of a mountain, it doesn't matter how many of these GBU 57s. Sure, that's those Moabs. Basically, they can blast. Okay, a regular artillery shell typically has a 50-meter blast range, right? So it's not going to penetrate the ground hardly at all. But it'll kill anything within that range, within reason. Maybe it has to be within, like, say, 20 to 30 meters to actually destroy a tank for an artillery shell. That's how much power an average 155 millimeter artillery shell has. Pretty impressive, right? A JDAM, 2,000-pound JDAM or GBU, whichever they're going to go with, the explosive power is about the same. Just their deliveries, GBUs are guided differently, right? JDAMs are basically programmed in where they're going to hit. But that's about, at the most, the blast power for that is going to be about 100 meters at max. Okay, that's just kind of like what can you kill for the max. It's not, we're not talking penetration or anything. Just if it were, airburst 5 feet above the ground, 10 feet above the ground, this is what it would cover, right? Which is about half a city block, quarter of a city block. Average city block. And some city blocks are really, really, really huge, right? But you're talking pretty big. Now the GBU, okay, it can blast out, because it's about 10 times the blast power, right? But it'll blast out maybe 150 meters to 450 meters, which is pretty impressive. Okay, the weakest nuke, okay, in comparison to the GBU, could level Hiroshima or Nagasaki, which is about 300, a blast radius of about 3,000 feet. 3,000, yeah, 3,000 feet. Yeah. Castle Bravo, the last thermonuclear, biggest thermonuclear that the States has ever put off, I think could take out like something like 5 miles. So, like, almost from here about halfway to the neighboring town, or just about to the neighboring town. That is a big blast radius. What do you call it? What's the Russian one there? The 50 megatonner. What the hell do they call that thing? The one dropped from the Tupolev Bear over the Arctic. What the hell is that one? How can I forget that one? It's like the most infamous nuke ever let off. But anyway, I'll blurt it out as soon as after my brain fart here. That one, the shockwave went around the world 29 times. Like it was felt around the world 29 times. Yeah. Not Trinity Bomb. What the hell was that thing? How am I forgetting that one? Like, shame on me. Anyway, so you get the idea. Now, that said, the Sarmat 28 is even more powerful than that thing. Like, it's just ridiculous the firepower we're talking about, right? And even at that, the most powerful nuclear weapon times 10 still would not have a single effect on these Iranian mountains. Like, that's what we're talking. Like, again, Mother Nature always wins, right? She always wins. So yeah, no, the Iranians hit back last night. They hit some critical infrastructure. They've been hitting financial sectors. The Iranians are like, guys, everybody was saying the same thing at the beginning of the war, that, oh, the Iranians, all they have to do is just survive this, just endure it, and then they'll be okay, right? It's like, but they're not. They're above that. They're fighting superiorly. I'm not overestimating their capabilities. Yes, they are taking a lot of hits, but what's getting hit? Trucks full of hummus, goat cheese. You know what I mean? Like, that's what's getting hit. The odd SAM site got hit. The odd lots of decoys got hit. The odd sure, the Navy stuff, but people, what they're not getting about the Navy, okay, the Iranian Navy. The Iranian Navy is factored in as a bonus. It's not factored in as the tip of the spear. So you lose your Navy, you lose the Air Force. That's why I don't see the Iranian Air Force anywhere. It's really it's not needed. The rockets will do all the jobs. So like the rockets are very low risk for the Iranians. Flying an F-15, in home space over UAE or Qatar, trying to take out a fucking drone without crashing into the ground because you got to fly so slow, is high risk. The aircraft carrier, high risk. Like if you look at where everybody is, like the George W. Bush, the Lincoln, the Abraham Lincoln, and the what's the other one that's there? Anyway, there's 3 of them there now, of the big ones. Like those things, they're way the hell back. They're way the hell back. You got one near the Gulf, on the Houthi side, and you got nothing near the Strait of Hormuz. Nothing near there at all. Like there's no aircraft carrier near there within about 600-700 miles. Like the Red Sea. Well, I'll show you on the map where they're sitting. Okay, so you got aircraft carrier 1 is somewhere in the Gulf of Aden. Okay, but far enough from the Houthis that they're not going to get whacked, right? So they can't go right in here because this is even more dangerous than the Strait of Hormuz. Okay, so they're not in here at all. Not in the Red Sea at all. You can't get there, right? The closest they could probably get is probably out here by the island, okay? The Yemeni island or whatever, unless the Houthis are on there firing missiles there, then that means they're out here. Okay, so there's no aircraft carrier here. Yeah. Then you've got the Lincoln here and the George Bush here, and I think there's another one I'm forgetting the name of. The Ronald Reagan. Yeah, the Ronald Reagan's around here somewhere too. But it might be out here. So Ronald Reagan, the Abraham Lincoln, the George Bush, right? So like over here, Iran's over here, guys. That's like 2,000 miles away. Yeah, about 2,000 miles. Yeah. So how effective is that? Okay. So even here, it's almost 1,000 miles away. The closest aircraft carrier, no matter which direction you go, is 1,000 miles away. You've lost the war. Like you got an aircraft carrier like 150, 200 to 200 miles away, maybe, because you could fly the F-18 without a drop tank, full weapons load. You could probably fly it from 200 miles away. You could fly it to Iran, at least to the coast anyway. Hit your target, have enough fuel to come back, plus an extra 200-mile range of because you break your fuel into thirds, right? Unless you run it into bingo fuel, and you got like 5 minutes to make it to the tanker, or else you're gonna fall into the ocean, or into the whatever. So 1,000 miles out, you got to think about that. So basically, you have to have at least 2 air-to-air refuelings just to do your mission per aircraft. And you have to understand these air-to-air refuelers. Like, there's certain tankers, they go up, they fill up the tanker, they come back down, they go up, fill up again, they come up, and it takes hours to fill these things, right? And get them turned around and send them back up. It's like you probably need 3 tankers just to keep one tanker in the air. You know what I mean? The Russians won't have that problem. Why? Because their aircraft all have internal ranges of 1,600 to 2,000 mile ranges, right? The Canadian CF-100, as old as it is, if you put F-35 style radars or whatever in there, that would be the CF-100. I always thought they should have just built a newer version of it. The CF-100, they did a lot of things with it sure. I know people are thinking 1954 technology won't work today. Well, as a patrol aircraft, it does. Okay, straight winged. It could have even a little bit more wing area to it, just for more fuel efficiency and stuff like that. Make it out of lighter way. Make it, if you want to make it look more stealthy, make it whatever. But build it cheap and just minimum 5,000 mile range. Then your pilots will pass out from exhaustion before they could ever run out of fuel. You cruise 10 hours at 500 miles an hour, you can cover a lot of territory. You know what I mean? Like the drones, for example, like the Predator drones and Reaper drones, those things can stay in the air for 30 hours. That's what they need. They don't need the air and they can still do air-to-air refueling, right? The drones make sense. But the problem with drones is they're 30 to 36 million bucks a pop, right? For the average drone. And they're easy to lose, right? So it's like they're not as cost effective as a rocket. If they're going on a one-way mission, they're not as cost effective as a rocket. So there's that. So there's no easy solution to fighting Iran. I said, long before, for years I've been telling you, Iran will be the most advanced country the United States has ever fought, and right now that's true. So now you want to go fight the Russians? Because the Russians, they have even better rockets. You know what I mean? Those Smerch rocket systems. That's 90% of the stuff that they're using. It's ground to ground. It's the wave of future warfare is basically Super Scud launchers and mobile rocket systems. Shoot and scoot. And then drones, just drone waves. Cruise missiles, drone waves, rockets. And then the odd mobile artillery, even regular artillery in Ukraine, all those M777 artillery guns, we found out they're obsolete. Why? Because you fire, by the time you've fired your 8th or 10th shell out of it, the drone has already found the artillery gun, and you can't pack it up and move it fast enough, right? Because the drone's just, it's a stationary object, where the mobile artillery trucks, you can fire and then fire 3 rounds, and before the rounds even hit the ground on the other side, you're already packed up to the next location. Which means you don't need as much artillery because your artillery is already moving. Mortar stuff. If I was in charge of the Canadian military, I'd be telling them, okay, first off, we need to, we've always kind of constructed our military for a NATO mission, right? So that we're ready to deploy beside the Germans, in Eastern Europe, during the Cold War. Still to this day, Canada and Germany, like there's so much parallel between Canada and Germany's military, like to the point where sometimes it's hard to tell which equipment is whose, just because we're so integrated into the military stuff there. But right now, Germany's telling the United States, like, no, you're not going to launch the war from our territory. Spain, you're not launching the war from our territory. France, you're not launching the war from our territory. Because they got to protect their people too. What Trump is saying is, you need to sacrifice yourself for Israel because I can't get the job done. Right? You got to go get your own oil. And there's people that fall for it. It's like, well, it's not fair that we have to go and liberate the oil for the UK and stuff like that, which is about to run out. Like, they've got like days left. That's it. They're about to run out of all their reserves. Yeah. Guys, the movie Mad Max was done in the 1980s, and it was about the year 2022, right? 2022, 2023. And the scenario described in Mad Max is pretty much... This is probably why Mel Gibson probably figured it out, back then, that, hey, I was in a propaganda movie to tell us what the future was going to be. Imagine how terrified that guy is right now. Like, Mel Gibson, love him, hate him, whatever. I think he's a cool guy. He's wacky. He's wacky. But knowing what he knows, why wouldn't he be, right? So Mad Max, that's we're about to see Mad Max everywhere. Like, it's like when the fuel runs out, my dear Lord, that is going to be nasty. For those of you who don't have firearms license, I'm going to give you a little tip about what you can do. You could buy reenactment flintlock and caplock rifles. Okay? When you go see like Fort Henry or whatever, you see the guys with their muskets and they're just shooting black powder. Okay, the guys that don't have the only difference between the guys that have their firearms license and the ones that don't is the ones that have their firearms license can drill the hole in the side of the musket where the pan the frizzen meets the pan, or say the flint meets the frizzen into the pan and whatever, okay? And you get a proof of smoke. But nothing comes out the barrel, there's nothing in the barrel. When they have the firearms license, they can actually put black powder or a ball in there and actually use it as a firearm. But the thing is you can buy these muskets, a brown bass musket, a dog lock musket, if you want something that looks really cool, a French facile, whatever. They are not considered firearms until that hole is drilled in there. So they sell them without it. So just so you know. And then you can go stock up on some pyrodex. Because I don't think you need to have a firearms license to buy pyrodex if it's for reenactments. Don't quote me on that. Or black powder, or pure black powder. But black powder, you're going to have to learn how to make it. So what I'm telling people is start to look at how people lived in the 1700s and adapt it to a modern lifestyle. Look at how the Amish are living and adapt it to a modern lifestyle. Because all these people that I see putting turtle pools in the back, or pool liners in the back of their pickup truck and filling it up with gas, and you see it during every crisis. Like, those people aren't going to survive. Like, those are impulsive people. Like the lady in the UK putting fucking gasoline in shopping bags. Like, what the fuck is she going to store that gas in? That's going to eat, that gas is going to eat through those bags probably by the time you get home. Why? Because the bags are made out of fucking petroleum. You know what I mean? Don't be that person. Or, not to mention that, she might fucking die and just fumes by the time she gets there. Or, God forbid she crashes because, it'll be a big fucking fireball. At least it'll be quick. Just don't be that person. Look, when the shit hits the fan, and let's say there's like energy lockdowns coming down, because this is what the world leaders have been telling us they were going to do to us. They wanted to do this. It's part of the Agenda 21, Agenda 2030 stuff. Openly admitted stuff. Climate lockdowns. What the fuck is a climate lockdown? Like, they're already rationing fuel. They're already rationing, we're going to see grocery rationing. You know what I mean? I was mocking the point of privilege cards yesterday, but I started thinking about it. Fuck, that means we're going to be getting point of privilege cards. Fuck. You know what I mean? Oh, it's coming. I know it's coming. Send the asteroid. Just saying. Or build me aliens. Where the hell are you? Get me out of here. Get me out of here. You know, I just need a few comforts with me to go. We'll go to your fucking home planet. We'll hang out. We'll have a good time. Get rid of all this. Oh my. Anyway, I digress. Like the first alien ship that lands, I'm stealing the fucking thing. I'm out of here. Yeah, it's like we come to no, that's our ship. We can't get home now. It sucks to be you. I'm out. Where do you live? Oh, we live over there. Okay, thanks. Zoom. Away I go. Yeah. I so very much wish for that. Yeah, I'll come and visit once in a while. Check in on you guys. It's like, oh yeah, they're still there. Okay, good. Come back. Say hi to everybody. Take off again. Come back. Oh, they're still there. Look a little rougher, but not too bad. Okay, take off. Come back. Planet's charred in nuclear radiation. Don't. Yeah. Okay, I'll be back in 25,000 years. There we go. Yeah, it's a big glass parking lot now. Yeah. So the U.S. base that got hit last night got hit. I forget which one it was. Doesn't matter. They hit them all, but it got hit really hard last night. And there are still personnel there. What I'm wondering is, are the Iranians now hitting these? Because you're not hearing anything about these guys on the ground, right? There's not like seeing it again, like Desert Storm. You know, as soon as new recruits, oh, here's like 1,000 recruits that just, troops that just arrived in the Middle East, and here we're going to interview them, blah blah blah. How you feel about the mission, blah blah blah. You're not seeing all that, right? You haven't seen that at all in this campaign. Why? Because you can't turn on the cameras without giving away your locations, which becomes rocket food. Look, the Ukrainians were first to discover that keeping your cell phone on, and the TikTok generation guys got killed really quick. Why? Because it's like, okay, I'm the first main character since I'm in a war. Look at this, guys. We're in a war. Ha ha. Oh, they're homing their fucking drones and cruise missiles on my phone. Okay, I better turn it off. What, they could still do it with it off? Yeah. Yeah, no, yeah, if you're in a war zone, do not carry a cell phone. Do not carry a cell phone. Why don't you think we haven't heard of like pager attack 2.0 in Iran? Because they probably ditched all that. In Russia, I don't know if this is true or not, but they're starting to go back to old fucking dial-up television show. They have, okay, millennials, I'm sorry I have to pick on you for this, but you can say whatever you want about Gen X and boomers and stuff like that, fine. But the rotary phone, the way it works is the number, you grab it and you go like that. You dial the first number of the number, the second number of the number, the third number of the number. And then when you get to the last one, it'll ring on the other end. Low tech works no matter what. Dial-up phones, Russia. It's like the again, whether this is true or not, like they're like NASA was trying to figure out how to build a pen that would work in space. The Russians just brought a pencil. You know what I mean? And sometimes like low tech works no matter what is the way to go. Yeah, get yourself a bunch of pencils, guys, because they work. But what I'm getting at is that like the digital age and the transhumanist age is going to be, in my book 2060 Dystopia, I know I keep giving it a shameless plug, and started reading again last night, so my third reading of the book before I publish it. Hopefully I can get that thing published. Well, I gotta wait till my taxes are done to see, if I can get the next computer and all the stuff I need. But priorities might change because of the world, right? Have to endure my shitty stuff a little bit longer, right? But the point is that like the low tech works no matter what, always works. Then it's just a matter of strategizing how to get it into an advantageous position, right? Like every politician in the world is pretty much malevolent, right? They're all malicious. They're all evil. It's just different grades of evil. How can every politician fail their people without exception, unless they're all in on it? Mob bosses fighting. I know it's a hard concept for some people to accept that, like there's not that much difference between Trump and Carney. There's virtually no difference between Biden and Trump, or Trump and George Bush, or Trump and Obama. There's no difference. They just answer to different billionaires. So there's a sway, and they fight amongst each other. Again, mob bosses fighting, the woke people fighting against the Zionist people, whatever it is, it doesn't matter. The only thing is, none of them are advocating for you. You know what I mean? So this is what we have to kind of, deal with, right? And the younger generation are getting hammered the most. But the younger generation have no knowledge of the world. Like they have no knowledge of the bliss of the 1980s and 1990s, right? Like when I look back as a young man and a kid, in those areas, like I was listening to a Gen Zer saying, he said something that I wasn't offended by it. I was just like, oh, he doesn't know. He's like, well, like he goes like, like how the West has kind of lost any connection to heritage and stuff like that, and just everything's atomized individuals and global citizenry and stuff like. And then he goes like Gen X, like they're like we basically the no culture kind of argument, whatever. And I'm like, oh boy, they don't even know, like they don't even know how wrong that is. Gen X probably is the generation, the only people in humanity that came close to having it all. Yes, the boomers got the wealth. There's no doubt about that. But Gen X had stuff that the boomers couldn't even dream of. We were the number one. We weren't the inventors of technology, like the computer. That was the boomers, and even the silent generation were in on computers. Like computers technically will go back to the late 1940s, right? Like like the first IBM type of thing, right? But computers used to be the size of a room. Like that was your great grandfathers making that. And they could calculate the most simplest of things, right? It was a very complicated mousetrap, we'll just say. And then the boomers come along, and they're able to get data out of it. They're able to do that. But then video games, modern internet, that's all Gen X. AI, that's Gen X, right? And then millennials. Now millennials are running with the torch. But one thing that culturally that Gen X had that millennials were losing, the early millennials had, but they lost, was a pre-internet world. Yes, there was internet open to the world in 1995. You could find recipes. You could find chat boards. Basically, it was like the precursors to 4chan, right? And 4chan, 8chan, whatever. And basically, it was just, analog typing, mocking the shit out of people, right? But you didn't spend all day going on your email. You didn't spend all day doing that stuff, right? Like the email was supposed to destroy the post office. The post office used to be predominantly letters and packages. Now it's predominantly packages. Like you rarely, you get regular mail, sure, but like the way the public uses it, it's okay. Yeah, your hydro bill, your whatever other bill comes in, credit card bill, whatever it is, comes in via letter, right? But that comes from the corporations and companies and whatever. But like, I'm going to write a letter and send it to my friend over in Banff. You know what I mean? Like that rarely happens. Maybe older generations do that. And you know what? If you have a friend and you know their address, write them a letter, send it to them. Just send them something funny. Just send them like a something funny. Yeah, you got to pay for a stamp. Well, why would I do that when I could just text them? Because when you get a letter for somebody, I have letters from girlfriends and stuff like that from years and years and years ago, right? Friends from around the world or whatever. Hey, Reg, I traveled here, but while I was here, I sent you a postcard. Like, even though I was going to see you a week later, and then like a week later, hey, I got your postcard, Yeah, what do you think about it? Cool, eh? Yeah, so, like, stuff like. But like that kind of stuff was culture. Yes, there was pop culture. There's always been pop culture and stuff like that. Like for example, French Canadians and Anglophone Canadians, right? From the 1980s, 1990s. Okay, there was a lot of hostility, leading up to the 1995 referendum, right? And this is something Gen Z will never understand. And it's because, like, the French guys, like, I rumbled with the French guys rumbled with us, after school and stuff like that. That had happened once in a while, We were never trying to kill each other, just, we were just kind of like Team A. Instead of playing football or hockey, we'd punch each other until Team A or Team B would win, right? So there was a couple of rumbles like that. It was kind of like the Outsiders movie, right? But the difference was Team Frenchie, Team Frog versus Team Squarehead. Yeah, they always called us squareheads, beef eaters or squareheads. That's what they called us. We called them frogs. We called them whatever. So the frogs were the French, and because they used to eat frog legs, right? As a delicacy, that was the main thing. That was the whole Napoleon thing. So Brits, Canadians, Australians, New Zealanders referred to the French as frogs. The frogs either called us beef eaters because we ate beef, which was, I'll take it. And squarehead, I never got the squarehead one though. Etienne told me what it was, but I forgot what it was. But it was something to do with the Victorian era hats or something like that, squareheads. Anyway, something like that. I don't quite remember if you guys remember, but anyway, that was a culture thing. And the reason why it was there was because we, unlike this Gen Z guy who didn't understand that, Gen Xers understood that we won at the Plains of Battle of Abraham, right? We understood that. That's why kids in a schoolyard or in high school were rumbling from we were reliving our battle from that time, right? No, the culture-wise, like Canadians knew exactly who they were in 1990. Like there was no ableist privilege, my point of privilege card. There was nothing like that. Like people were just normal. We could call each other retards without everybody taking a massive offense or have to go to fucking therapy for 3 months. Again, and back in the 1970s when I was a little kid, my black friends, you should have heard how we talked to each other. Yeah, N word and the H word and H word was honky, right? So I know I can get away with saying honky. Blacks always called us honkies, for honky tonk, right? Because everybody listened to like country western honky tonk back there and a little bit of rock and roll, right? Back in the 1970s. Watch Smokey and the Bandit, you'll get it. You'll get it. Watch Smokey and the Bandit. Yeah, there we go. You'll get it. There wasn't a lot of cursing in that, but just the way people talked, like that was, or like the Dukes of Hazzard or whatever, like how people were back then. Those were very representative. Again, you'd walk down the streets of downtown Ottawa. It wasn't uncommon to see a pickup truck with the windows down and three rifles in the rack. 30-06, a 30-30, and a shotgun. Nobody touched it. Nobody stole anything. Half the city of Ottawa, nobody ever locked their doors at night. More likely to lock the doors in the country. Even still to this day, like most people don't lock their doors in the country. You know what I mean? Because it's homogeneous, it's safe. Yes, there's the odd guy that steals from you, but usually we know who the guys that steal in the town are, and they got no friends. You know what I mean? Yeah, you don't burn your bridges in a small town, right? So no, we have culture. We have culture, we have heritage. I know I'm off the topic a bit here, but it does play back of, why we're living what we're living. You know what I mean? Because right now we're fighting for somebody else's culture. We're fighting for the Jews, right? Because they want us to die. They want us to kill their enemies and die in the process, right? And yes, no matter, there was a chief of staff fired or quit the other night because this guy was like, no, the idea of invading Iran, boots on the ground, is just a fucking lunatic idea. Like anybody with half a brain can figure this out. Like if you couldn't take with full air superiority bases all over the Middle Easy to resupply, with very little resistance against it. If you couldn't take the Taliban and the Iraqi proxy groups with that, like established bases, complete supply chain of weapons, medical, food, water, whatever you needed, you're not going to take a hardened military like Iran. Like Iran is a modern military. It's just they don't look like the World II model. They look like, again, the Iranians are playing fucking modern warfare, where the Americans are still stuck in World War II, right? Like as the saying goes, you always fight the last war. Like how did they not have this drone interception thing figured out before they went in, right? That's Trump's boomer brain listening to the Zionists, because he believes that you're going to get a battleship working. Like a battleship would not fucking last 2 minutes in the Gulf of, in the Persian Gulf. It wouldn't last 2 minutes. Yeah, it would take you years to build the thing to watch it get sunk. Look, the Scharnhorst, okay, when it was sunk, it was a German battleship / battle cruiser, and it took hours to sink that thing, with shells, with about I forget how many British warships basically just fucking trying to keep pace with the darn thing and keep hitting it to slow it down enough, right? And they finally crippled it enough to slow it down that they were able to pummel it from about 8 different directions. And the thing was still firing back. So it was hours and hours and hours to sink this thing. The Yamamoto, the largest battleship ever built, even still to this day, took a shit ton to make it sink. But it sank. It did sink in a day. Once enough, the right holes were poked into it, it did sink. Right? Aircraft carriers of World War II. Several, what was the one with the sharks? They made a movie about it. What was the name of the ship? Anyway, the guys were in the water for like hours and hours, like a day or something like that in the water, and half of them got eaten by like 500 men out of the most, like there was like 500 or 1,500 men eaten by sharks. It was, like only a handful of guys survived that. Like, it was crazy. Okinawa. The Battle of Okinawa. Now, I don't know if I agree with this or not, but like Iwo Jima was an island, like in hindsight, like it really didn't matter. But Okinawa was kind of like the last step before attempting to invade mainland Japan. The Americans couldn't, they bombed Tokyo with the Doolittle raid. That was very impressive. But to take out mainland Japan was almost impossible, right? So all these little islands around it is what, the idea was to take all the islands. Okinawa was impossible. It was, pretty much right next to mainland Japan, right? So Douglas McGregor, Colonel Douglas McGregor was saying that was the catalyst for dropping the nuke on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, because they knew that they would never be able to take mainland Japan. So with Trump, he's never going to be able to take, again, I've been 100% correct, as many other people saying that, no, going after Iran is like Iwo Jima 2.0, but with, basically rockets, cruise missiles, hypersonic missiles and rockets and cruise missiles, drones, stuff like that. And we don't even know what they got ready for the beach landings. Sure, the Iranian guys, they're running around with AKs and their old FAL rifles and stuff like that, but they're not going to engage you with that first. Like, it's not going to be Desert Storm. They're going to be up in the mountains with drones and shit like that. They're going to be there with MadPad launchers and mortars. Like even if they think they're going to do okay, we're going to do the B-52 raid for the distraction, we'll level Tehran, maybe other cities or whatever. While the Iranians are busy with that, we'll send the carrier group into and the landing amphibious crafts into the Gulf, into the Persian Gulf, and go take Kharg Island, while we hit like 5 other places on the way in, and it'll land at multiple places and they'll be spread so thin that there's no way they'll be able to take us. Okay. I talked about that drill a couple of weeks ago, or a couple of months ago, with the basically the British, the Finns, and I think the French were in on this one against 2 or 4 Ukrainian drone operators, and within 2 or 3 days they wiped out about 1,500 guys using NATO tactics. Like just and to the point where they're like, you got to make it easier for us, and it's like, well, no, that's what Ukraine is dealing with. So when you realize how much experience the Ukrainians have, you have to admire the Ukrainians. Look, everybody, self-included, yes, I criticized the Ukrainians in the beginning. I even said, like it was in their best interest just to okay, surrender rather, surrender to the Donbass. You're not getting Crimea back, and save the bloodshed, right? But then somebody invades your territory. You know what I mean? It's to the death. So I can respect and understand that. I would be the same way, even if I know it's going to be a losing battle. It's to the death, right? Doesn't matter who the foe is. If you invade my country, I defend it, and I will defend it, Lara the Impaler style. I'll be as brutal as the the natives. Yes, I will scalp people. I will put your head on a pike. I will put you on a pike. So you know what I mean. I would have no problem, doing all kinds of IEDs and just blowing up anybody that invades my country. I don't care who you are. The answer is no. You know what I mean? So that's what I'm willing to do to defend my country if that ever happens, right? And so I can get what the Ukrainians are talking about. But I'm also watching what the Ukrainians are doing is like snipers are kind of like the only infantrymen that really make sense right now, because even though the snipers almost always get killed, they usually rack up a count. Where sending in squads of guys, companies, whatever, just like whatever level you're going to send in. It's just like you're not going to get the guys walking through the bush, in a line abreast, basically 100 guys. Contact forward, and then it's just like, okay, it's not Gettysburg anymore. No, the drones are going to hit you from behind. They're going to hit you, they're going to hit you asymmetrically. Like they're going to basically, you're not going to see them coming. We've already seen it in Ukraine. You don't send 30 guys out into a field. The artillery shell lands like 2 seconds after. And it doesn't seem to matter where they are. Like it's surveillance and response, right? You pull a tank out of the tree line, the tank gets hit right away. Tanks are not completely obsolete, but you have to protect your tanks, but you can't protect them World War II style. You can't put 30 guys behind the tank while the tank's going forward and then, get them set up here, get your guys set up here, get them. It doesn't work like that. You can send 3 guys at a time max, because chances are those 3 guys are going to get killed by a drone at some point, right? You got to send maybe 2 guys, 3 guys, whatever. Small teams everywhere, and just spread them right out, so that the artillery only kill. Again, we saw the first 2 years of this 5-year war, which is now we're starting the 5th year for the Ukrainian war. The fact that the Ukrainians have hung on for 5 years is very impressive. And the fact that their war is now starting to morph into a very similar to the Iranian war, where it's like, okay, well, we're not going to be meeting soldier to soldier on the ground unless you're a retard, because you're going to get slaughtered. Why? Because our guys are going to either rocket you, drone you, or whatever. So I can guarantee you within, again, I said at some point the Ukrainians probably this year coming are going to pull some sort of a rabbit out of the hat. I think it's going to be the rocket rabbit. Why? Because what they're learning is the only way to stop Russia is not on their territory, but on Russian territory. You take out the gas, you take out the oil, you take out their means of waging war, right? That's the only way you're going to get the Russians to stop. So in other words, the Ukrainians have to basically, who are also sending guys to fight help fight against drones and use air defense properly, so that they're not firing 8 Patriot missiles at like 2 rockets, because a lot of that's going on, and that's what's happening with a lot of these Middle Eastern countries, is these Gulf states, is that they're just launch it. You know what I mean? They're not reserving anything. Like last night, I don't think there was any Iron Dome missiles being fired hardly at all last night in Israel. Like again, the Iranians basically they have rocket superiority, which would be the equivalent of air superiority over the Israelis. They can hit whatever they want almost indiscriminately. Um, but somehow, yeah, like I'm not worried about the Iranians in this one. Like my money's on Iran's going to win. Like there's no decapitation strike that can get their government to collapse because it's not working that way. You can't get through the mountain layers and blow up all the tunnels. And even if you can blow up a few tunnels, there's could be thousands and thousands and thousands of tunnels. We don't know what they fully have. You know, they've played those cards fairly close to their chest. They've only shown you a few propaganda videos and that's it. And that could be just like a tip of the iceberg of what they actually have. Like, how much weaponry can you actually stockpile, since, in 16 years? Quite a bit. Especially when you're not, taking forever to build. Like, again, they could probably, like the Iranians themselves said, yeah, we can keep a steady rocket barrage. Like they're averaging 30 drones a day and 40 missiles. They could keep that up until the midterms, right? So that's a long time. And by that time, like, what targets do they got left? You got to understand, like, some of the Iranian rockets are pulling back because they got nothing left to hit. Like, they're trying to basically now hunt down, like, U.S. troops and kill them with rockets. You know what I mean? Again, you're gonna have when the casualties start happening, even if the U.S. doesn't come forward with the casualties, you're going to get whistleblowers in the military say, "Yeah, I just lost 1,500 guys last night." You know what I mean? It's going to be like that because it probably already is like that. Like the Iranians they've got proxies all over the place, or spies, whatever you want to refer to them. That again, like observers. You know what I mean? Sure, you'll get a few SEAL Team 6 guiding in a few weapons and munition strikes to Iran. There's no doubt about that. But the second those guys are caught, you lose those guys. And what's more valuable, the aircraft or the 5 years of training that took for that guy to fly the aircraft, right? Like you can't just get all your like elite pilots killed or whatever, whether in the air or on the ground, and just replace them with nuggets, right? As they call them. They're just the guys that are, they've got like 120 hours combat ready time. And now they're off, in their F-18 ready to go and get their, their trap rating or whatever to land on the aircraft carriers. Yeah, those guys will die very quickly. I know the F-35 pilots are already usually experienced pilots, like F-15 pilots. They've probably got 1,000 hours of flying time or 1,500 hours of flying time before they're ever accepted into an F-15 or an F-22, right? Like you have to fly the F-15, I think, before you can get to the F-22. Or be very exceptional at what you're doing, right? But what I'm getting at too is that, like, Trump is not going to give up on this war until Israel tells him whatever. Now, the thing with the Israelis, okay, is they're now, well, we attacked Iran and they fired back, so now it's blood libel time, right? We have to kill every Iranian because they killed one of our guys, right? That's the way the Israelis work. That's the way the Jewish mindset seems to be. We'll attack you, but if you attack us back, then it's a blood libel, right? Like, again, make it up. Make it make sense, right? Again, that's their modus operandi. It's openly admitted. Like like I'm just reporting on it. So you can call me whatever you want, but you can't call me wrong, right? So yeah, no, I do believe that the Iranians, okay, you took out their bridge. Maybe they start whacking more tourism stuff. Like I say, the A380 that got damaged the other day. How much is that going to? How long is that thing going to be on the ground for? Every day that thing's sitting on the ground, whether in pieces or not, costs money, right? Those things don't fly. They don't make money. They lose a lot of money very quickly. Airliners, like airline companies, are hard enough to make money with to begin with, right? That's why they usually have to have government support. But you know, like Justin Trudeau's dad, Pierre Elliott Trudeau. The reason why Justin Trudeau was invested in Air Canada is because his dad made air travel a human right back in the late 70s, early 80s, right? And then the government bought Air Canada, favored it, whatever. And I know how a lot of people look at it. Like again, like listening to Vashi, listening to her talk about with the NDP, uh, supporting the Canada Post, saying I wish Canada Post wouldn't lose so much money. And I'm like, and she works for the CBC, right? This is what we're dealing with. You're taking, like, who loses more money per year, the CBC or Air Canada? Air Canada or Canada Post, right? Which is all services that we do kind of need, except for the CBC is completely controlled by the globalist left, right? And yet that's not right. It needs to be fair, non-biased. About more balanced reporting. Yeah. Air Canada, for example, okay, we could supply our own aircraft if push comes to shove. Problem is that we have to buy a certain amount of Boeing aircraft because we made deals with the Americans and stuff like that. We get engines from them. We build our airframes. There's Airbus. There's Boeing. Like, we got just about every air manufacturing thing in Canada, even if it's not to the same degree. Now, if Trump cuts all that off, then we're down to Boeing, or down to de Havilland, and which Boeing bought out de Havilland, but we're down to Bombardier basically, which I'm okay with that. And people have always criticized, oh, Bombardier loses money, Bombardier. Yeah, but it's technical jobs here. And I'm willing, like, rather than having people on, like, say, the human rights tribunals in Canada, and so there's 14 of those, waste of money. If I'm going to waste the money, I'd rather than be wasting the money on, like, our new space program that we're starting to ramp up, the shipbuilding, stuff like, yeah, you're building critical infrastructure and stuff at a bit of a loss, sure, but it's a technological advance to the country. Like, for example, building that super train from Montreal to Toronto. I'm all for that. High-speed rail? Yeah. Is it going to be a complete loss in money? Yes. If we look at everything as that we have to make profit on absolutely everything, we won't build anything. You know what I mean? Because everything operates at a pretty much a loss. But if you want a really comfortable civilization, maybe you pay a little bit of taxes, wrangle the taxes so they're not too far out, but have technologically advanced. Like, would you rather be paying for refugees or high-speed train? I'll take the high-speed train. Or airliners. Or, lose a little bit at the post office, but have reliable mail delivery. I'm not saying we can't find more efficient ways to do things, but there you go. Or building our own military stuff, right? So, yeah, so that's what's going on now. I know it's kind of went all over the place with this one, but there is a bit of a calm before the storm that is going on. Yes, I think Trump is going to just double down, go completely scorched earth. Like, he says the quiet part out loud because he's a psychopath. He can't keep it to himself. And it's a part of the Jewish religion to tell people that you're going to destroy them before you destroy them, right? So that they can avoid karma. Yeah, I forget what they have a word for it. The Jews have a word for it. But again, it's that crazy. It's that crazy. So would B-52 raids go right over Tehran? Possibly. But I think you're going to lose a B-52 every time you do. And would they do the beach landing? I still say that these guys are going to the Middle East to beef things up, to extract other soldiers. Because I can imagine those 30 or 50,000, U.S. personnel and God knows how many civilians that are still stuck in the Middle East. Like, how do you get out of there? It's got to be a nightmare. Like, I'd be taking a rowboat at this fucking point. You know what I mean? Because, like, once they start hitting the desalination plants, that's it. You're talking, like, complete death of people, like, in the tens of thousands within days, like a week tops, right? You just won't be able to, like, get people, like, because when they take out the desalination plants, they take out the fuel on top of that. So just even if you're like in the middle of Saudi Arabia, and you got to drive to the coast or UAE or whatever, you'll have to walk there in all that desert heat, right? With no water. So if you take out the desalination plants, and even if they're just shut down for like 2 weeks, and then you hit the water aquifers, oh my god, like we're talking complete debt. Like you're talking like 60, like 64 million people or something like that, or 164 million people across the Middle East or whatever it is, like dead. More than half of them probably dead within a week to 2 weeks tops, right? Like you're talking about probably 500,000 to 2 million people probably drowning in the Mediterranean trying to float their way to Cyprus. You know what I mean? And then even if they are able to make a million people a week to Europe, the first week the food's like here in Canada, like for example, all the Indians that came in, they basically raid the but they get government assistance and all that, right? And they're getting all this money. But then on top of that, that's not enough. They have to go and basically empty all their food banks, right? Because like they can get away with it, right? It's free stuff. They'll take advantage of. Like they take advantage of themselves. It's their culture to do this, to the point where like basically the people that really need it can't get it. So it's starving out our own people because of these greedy fuckers, right? And again, they make videos about this. Oh, this is how you scam the Canadian system, right? But yeah, I digress. At some point, they all gotta go. Not every immigrant, but anybody that came in illegally, all these foreign students, these temporary foreign workers have to be phased out. Yes, it'll take a couple of years to phase them out if you don't want to collapse the economy, right? These illegal truckers, they need to go to jail. And then what I would do with the illegal truckers is this. If you are caught driving a tractor trailer illegally, because, like how many more of our citizens are we going to let them kill, right? They don't know what they're doing. They're not trained. They don't know what they're doing. And you got a 130,000-pound missile going down the road, right? If you're caught, it's 12 years in jail, hard labor. If you kill anybody, death penalty. Even if you say it was an accident. No. You should not be, like, there's no, well, I didn't do it on purpose. It's second-degree murder, manslaughter. Whatever. No. That's murder. If you made the conscious decision to get behind a tractor trailer that you're not qualified to drive, death penalty. You know what I mean? Jail time and then death penalty. And then if there's no death penalty, when you're done your sentence, right on a plane, there's no, here's your deportation date. No, it's like jail, plane, never come back. You come back, it's another 12 years in jail. That's the only way you get rid of the corruption. And then the people that are good, that do follow the rules, well, you can keep them around because they're not a problem, right? But yeah, this whole, we got to get rid of Whitey with, like basically multiculturalism. I think those days are going to go. It's going to be really, really rough during the 10th Crusade as this kicks up. Probably by midsummer. Again, the second the B-52s start to carpet bomb the Iranians and just genocide the Iranians, they're not hitting military. Like everybody knows the Israelis weren't hitting military targets hardly at all in Gaza. Like everybody knows that they were just genociding the Gazans. It was indiscriminate, like targeting of buildings. You know what I mean? Like we could tell. Like it's just, like everybody knows. That's why Israel is probably the most hated country on the planet right now. They've earned it. You know what I mean? They're genocidal maniacs, right? And they'll, oh, well, yeah, but we were being attacked. And so, sure, okay, fine. You got attacked on October 7th. And on October 7th, most of the world was standing with Israel saying, oh, this was horrible. But the disproportionate response of just carpet bombing people. Meanwhile, again, yes, this was another Israeli Mossad thing because either no good crisis goes waste or whatever. So the Egyptians were warning you, Jordan was warning you for like weeks on end, months on end, even I think up to like a year and a half ahead that, yeah, there was going to be an attack coming on you around that time. Be ready for it. Israel with the most, at the time, with the most heaviest surveillance systems in the world took like, like 10 hours or something like that to respond. Yeah, they let it happen, right? Why? Because then they could get what they want. That's the same with this war. It's like, okay, well, the Iranians are hitting everything. They've got 20% of the world off the market, 8% of the world's fertilizer off the market. Oh, well, we gotta genocide them because they're all terrorists. Again, that's why Fox News says, the terrorist Iranian nation. That's what they refer to them as, right? So that you automatically hate them. Now, do I like the Iranians? Nah, I'm indifferent. I don't really care. As people, I'm sure that some of them are really, really nice people. I like anybody around the world. Do I want all of them living here? No. Why? Because their society is not compatible with my society. So does that mean I agree with because I don't want Palestinians and Iranians and all these people from the Middle East living in Canada because they're not, culturally they're not compatible with here. Maybe a handful, fine, but in general, no, right? But it doesn't mean I support what Israel does because it's like, okay, well, I don't want the Iranians here, therefore it's okay for Israel to go and genocide them. I don't want Palestinians here, therefore it's okay for the Israelis to genocide them. No. It doesn't mean I support the Palestinians. Again, it's between them. If they want to kill each other, let them kill each other. Keep us out of it. It's none of our business. Anyway, I think that's about all I got for today. So not as much, but I think it's calm before the storm because in Trump's speech, he didn't declare victory. And he keeps referencing that if I don't get what I want, I'm going to just, basically destroy everything. And they hit the bridge. And the way Trump thinks, again, is this boomer mentality of, if I bring in these troops, they're going to be scared and they're going to surrender. If I invade, they're going to surrender. If I destroy this, again, because it doesn't matter. Look, we saw what the Americans did to the Iraqis, right? And Afghanis, just bomb them into the Stone Age, right? And then call it, a mission wrap, and we're helping, democracy, women and children. So, meanwhile, the main goal is to kill them. But this time around, it's so masked off that unlike George Bush, as dumb as George Bush Jr. was, George Bush Sr. was actually quite clever. I don't like the man; he was pure evil. But the thing is he was smart. He knew how propaganda worked. He was part of that old guard that gets it, right? George Bush, just dumb as a bag of hammers and just doing whatever his daddy told him to do, right? Which is on behalf of Israel. But what he had to do was kind of like, in hindsight, when you watch George Bush Jr. talk about like why they're there and so that, this slips and that slips and whatever, then you realize, okay, yeah, these psychos, they slip once in a while. It's a glitch in the system because, they accidentally say the quiet part out loud. But he couldn't just say, yeah, we're in the Middle East for Israel. There were a few generals that said, yeah, we're there for the oil, we're there for whatever. So no, it was weapons of mass destruction, the war on terror, right? They used the propaganda that way. This time around, they really didn't know what propaganda to use, and they didn't propagandize the people enough to, get the justification to go to war. So I guess what they were thinking was that Americans would see October 7th and then, okay, well, that's like, worse than 9/11 because it happened to the Jews. Therefore, again, I remember a Jewish guy trying to explain how this was like so much worse that, you lost, 1,000 people. Sure, it was bad. On October 7th, whatever. Okay, it was bad, sure. Right? But they were saying it was like, the Jews were saying like, it's worse than 9/11 and Pearl Harbor combined. Like every terrorist attack in America was not the same as yeah. You can't even make it up. And then you had that Zionist evangelical guy. They're not Christians. Don't call them Christians. They think they're Christians, but they're not. Going that, well, we have to do what Israel says because they're better than us. The Jewish people are better. You can't make it up. You can't make it up, guys. This is the brainwashing levels that we're dealing with. Sorry, turn up the just a bit get kind of damp in here. Anyway, yeah. So when does Trump do the retarded scorched earth thing on the Iranians? I don't know. What will the response be? Well, like Trump hasn't learned. Like he's still trying to put a round peg into a square hole here. He just hasn't learned that every time he makes Iran's got nothing left in the tank. That same night, there's the Iranians. Oh yeah, launch. You know what I mean? They already got they already got probably about 6 weeks of targets figured out. You know what I mean? Like it's just okay. Well, we know what we're after, but let's make the rockets a little bit more valuable. Let's see if we can hit some more IDF guys, right? Which I think Lebanon got a massive hit on the IDF there last night. It's going to be weird to see Hezbollah pushing and like push into Israel. Like Israel's about to lose a lot of territory here. Which is going to be the game changer, right? So, like the Palestinians, they really can't do much of an offensive, but Hezbollah can, right? So the thing is that once you degrade those Merkava tanks, okay, and the Apache gunship helicopters and stuff like that, which they are getting shot down. Like the Apaches used to have complete, you go into the West Bank, kill a bunch of Palestinians or go kill a bunch of like Hezbollah guys or whatever. And there was nothing they could do but throw rocks at the helicopter and not even get anywhere close because the thing's 150 feet above the ground, right? Just sitting there blasting rockets or whatever. And like the Iranians or the Israelis, like they killed journalists, they killed scientists. A lot of scientists have been killed this year. ww3 just did a thing on it. And it all pertains to drone warfare and AI. And so data centers. We know what it's about. We saw the same thing with the banksters in 2008, like 300 bankers killed in a year. Yeah, they all magically fell out like 3-story windows. Yeah. We know the game. So yeah, the 007 spy stuff is still going on. But the thing is it doesn't really matter because the Israelis, like, they're losing surveillance cameras. They're losing, like satellites are not good enough to fight this war solely, right? You need the drones, you need the satellites, you need the aircraft, you need the AWACS, you need the liaison on the ground. You need all these things. You need the AI data and all that. So like another plug in my book. One thing I talk about in my 2060 book is that how the world becomes dystopic, where we have all this incredible technology never before seen by man, but it's dystopic because it's like nobody knows who's running it, and not only that, it's just like you can have this incredible technology, but yet the simplest thing here is banned because it's offensive, right? And stuff like that. We're already living that, but it was just like taking it to the point of ridiculous, right? So, like for example, like the pager attack, right? Why isn't that working in Iran? Well, it's a phenomenal weapon, but the Iranians aren't carrying pagers now. You know what I mean? Like maybe some of them are, but you know what I mean? They're probably using old like fucking dial-up telephones. You can't do nothing against that. You might be able to listen in on it, but you can't hone in on it. It doesn't emit a signal. You know what I mean? Like it's analog wiring. You know what I mean? Analog, low tech, works no matter what. You know what I mean? Like the only cars that are going to be running in the future are the ones with the magnetos. You know what I mean? It's like, yeah, electronics, no. Look, the 1938 Volkswagen Beetle would be the ultimate apocalypse. There's no suspension to worry about. Maybe on the front, and that's it. I've ridden into he doesn't live there anymore. Freddie, my cousin, he had all these Volkswagen Beetles. I remember he'd take us out and cruising around in them. What a rough ride though, but you'd lie. It was fun though. It was these Volkswagen Beetles. The only thing I think that was rougher to drive than a 1970s or 1960s Volkswagen Beetle was like a Suzuki Samurai. Short wheelbase like that. Hit a cigarette butt, you kiss the dash. Oh yeah. But no, Trump is going to do an overhanded response, which is going to greenlight the Iranians to hitting really heavy. Like, look, the Iranians, if they were going scorched earth and they really wanted to fuck things up, they would hit the desalination plants. But they don't want to kill all those people for nothing, right? So it's just kind of like we're still hitting military targets. Yes, the civilian targets, such as like they're targeting every motel, hotel in the area, right? Why? Because it's full of U.S. troops. And I can imagine, like, where else can you put these troops? You can't keep them on the bases because the bases they're still functioning, but like they're getting hit every day. So, like again, you see that hit on the U.S. base last night. I'm sure nobody got injured or died, right? It's like that's impossible. It's just impossible to hit that hard. The base in Israel that got hit last night. It's impossible to say that nobody died on that. Like it's just impossible. They're fucking leveling buildings. They're doing, like they're hitting all this stuff, right? We don't know what the true cost is going to be. And it's not scorched earth yet. So when Trump goes scorched earth, if the Iranians go scorched earth, I think all they'll do is mainly it's like, okay, well, we'll just wipe Israel off the map and get it over with. Like, I don't think the Iranians want to kill all the Israelis. They just want them to stop, right? But I think they're going to come to the conclusion the only way to stop Israel is you have to kill them all. I'm not advocating for that. I'm just saying they're going to come to the conclusion like these people are fucking, they're insufferable. They'll keep attacking you and attacking you and attacking you. So there's going to come a day, like I said, that it's going to be complete radio silence out of Israel. And we're not going to know what's happened. And all we're going to know is that the night before there was a huge rocket barrage. But I think what they're going to do is basically grid-style cluster bombs with the rockets. Instead of just focusing in on an industry or whatever, like again, when they want to end it all, they'll just hit the nuclear stockpiles and the Dimona nuclear power plant. They know where it is. Like the Israelis are not going to be able to move that stuff. If they load it onto the aircrafts, the second they start loading nukes, that's when you're going to see the gloves off from Iran. And again, the hits Iran is taking, yes, they're getting lots of hits. There's no doubt about that. They've taken losses, but when you measure it up, what the Americans are hitting and the Israelis are hitting, with the exception of a few things, like again, going on about the Navy, when the Navy is like, okay, you hit them at port, number one. That should tell you, like that those big, frigates and destroyers and corvettes were really not the backbone of the Iranian Navy. They've been sitting at port more times than not. But those little drone boats, they're almost impossible to stop. Say, well, just send out an Apache and an A-10 and just go around blowing boats out of the water. Well, you got to remember, there's like commercial fishing there. There's other nations' boats are there. You know what I mean? You can't just do like what they did. The U.S. pirate Navy did. For Venezuela. Oh, there's a speedboat. It's got to be drug dealers. You can't just do that. You're going to kill your own guys. You know what I mean? You're going to hit public ferries and stuff like that. I'm not saying that. Like again, the U.S. doesn't care about killing who they kill if Israel tells them to kill, right? And the soldiers, well, they just follow orders. Like they have no conscience, right? It's only after they come back and then they complain about it as a veteran, but it seems like during it, they just follow the orders because, oh, well, I don't know. Unfortunately, that's the way it is. But it's going to be to their, like, the second you carpet bomb that, like, trust me, like, they're already targeting U.S. soldiers. This idea that they've only killed like 13 of them is just fucking preposterous. What is the actual death toll? This is why you're getting the blackout, because I'm sure the soldiers that just landed there and are now going searching to save other soldiers, they escort them out, like all these MEUs that are going in, right? They're probably getting, the Black Ops are landing on, and the Apaches are probably circling U.S. embassies to keep the rioters at bay, but there probably half the people in there have been killed, by either drone strike or rocket strike, or just shot through a window or something like that. every U.S. embassy around the world pretty much has protesters out in front of it. You saw the same thing during Vietnam, but it was a lot different. This is different. You know what I mean? So you're sending in soldiers to probably rescue other soldiers, get them off the bases and stuff like that. That's the only thing I can think of, because the idea of using these guys for an amphibious landing is it's a suicide mission. You know what I mean? Like the Iranians, like the U.S. military is good, but they're not that good. You know what I mean? Like it's I'm not playing down their capabilities. Like the Maduro raid. Maybe that was just done just so, like, the idea was like, well, we saw what they did to Maduro, and it was such a fantastic raid that Iran will be a cakewalk, right? Like, this is about to go on probably for a year and a half. Like, it won't go on for a decade because the Americans won't last long enough. Israel won't last long enough. You're going on month 2, and half of fucking Israel's been vaporized, right? Like, maybe not half, but you get the idea. And that's because it's concentrated fire. Like, it's not, it's not blitzkrieg. It's not, like at some point the Iranians going to say, okay, well, we're going to do a Gaza style. We're just going to kill them all. You know what I mean? And there's a couple of reasons. It might not be what you think it is. Like, it's like, okay, they don't want to kill all these innocent Israelis that have nothing to do with nothing. No, I don't think it's that. I think it's like, well, there's Muslims in there too, right? We got to give them a chance to get out of there before we level everything, right? But once they decide to do it, carpet bombing with rockets is going to be devastating. It's devastating. One rocket carries about 80 munitions. I won't call them warheads, but munitions, which have the equivalent of about 120 millimeter mortar. Now, the thing is when these things hit, those mortars might cover like a 25 meter radius, about 75, 80 feet, right? And, about 75, 80 feet. Randomly landing down all over the city, it's going to create fires, it's going to create this. They've already hit chemical plants, so there's, just breathing in all those fumes. They did it to the Iranians, so yeah, the air quality in the Middle East can't be too good right now. I think we could all probably agree on that. But whatever lunacy Trump is going to do next on behalf of Israel, at some point the Iranians are going to say, look, 2/3 of the American Congress is basically dual citizenship Israelis. Here's all Trump's donors. Here are all the people that are making the problems for us. Here's the whole Trump administration. Send in the hit teams. There's going to be a military coup, most likely from the American side, especially once we understand what the actual true body count is. When you hear half, 35,000 Americans just got killed in the month, or something like that, or 6,000 or 2,000, whatever it is. Wait till the people see it. Wait till they see the Iranian footage of, there's the A-10s, whatever. You see the first 4 A-10s meeting the missile, getting shot down. You see the 6 gunship helicopters going down. You see 30 Blackhawks getting shot down with 16 guys each, just in real time. And then the guys that made it on the landing craft, well, here comes the artillery shell straight on top of them, or the drone straight on top of them. 200 guys, 400 guys, 600 guys, 1,000 guys, just wiped out in 15 minutes, something like that. And then the machine guns start up. you know what I mean? Yeah, the idea that the United States is going to take 10,000 guys and have overwhelming force against a 1 million man army. But again, Hollywood movies have propped us for these kind of ridiculous things too, right? We're going to do a Red Dawn style invasion of Iran. It's I'm sure they're probably paratrooping guys in, but you can't support them once you get them on the ground. This is why I said there would never be a Red Dawn invasion of Canada or anything like that, because you'll get them there, but as soon as those guys run low on, just drinking water, let alone ammo and MREs, you won't be able to send, you're going to lose these heavy lift aircraft daily. You only have so many of those. knows, right? Like you just won't be able to resupply. And every time you do a resupply, the Iranians are going to spot you with binoculars, and there's no way to detect the guy with the binoculars, unless you're looking right at him. You know what I mean? Like it's just the low tech works no matter what. The snipers everywhere, drone operators everywhere, machine gun nests everywhere. It's going to be a slaughter fest. Mortars, and that stuff's, like mortars, they move those fuckers with motorbikes, right? They'll move them with donkey carts. It doesn't really matter. It doesn't really matter. No, we'll see what kind of idiocracy, what would Trump do it on Sunday, on Easter? He probably would, because he's think, well, they won't expect it on Easter, but they would expect it on Easter because it's a holy war. Why? Because what's Easter, right? Like maybe that's what this whole war is about. That this is the Easter where Jesus actually comes back. You know what I mean? But the Bible says you won't know the date or time. It'll be on the Lord's choosing, not yours, right? That's why evangelicals, like again with the rapture and all that, like they're always wrong. They're always wrong, right? Whether you believe in it, you don't believe in it, but like it's not up to you to know. Like you'll know when you know. So all these end times doomers, which that's what Trump is, a Zionist evangelical doomer. Just because he doesn't go to church every Sunday, I mean, when you see Paulo White in the Oval Office, that's what's in his head. He's that insane. He's not stupid. He's insane. And this idea that he has to kill every Iranian on behalf of the Jews. Him and Hegseth are in lockstep on that, and Lindsey Graham. Again, remember when Trump was complaining about all these wars, but yet he's best friends with Lindsey Graham? That should have been your first indicator that he was lying. So we'll see. We'll see. So I'm going to get into some massive, massive book reading today. We've got lots I want to do. And I'm going to go from there, and then, yeah. So hopefully everybody stays safe. Stock up. Keep cash on hand. Because, like if you want to buy a couple of things of fuel, go ahead. But understand fuel ration. Like try to plan your life outside of fuel. Not easy to do. Bicycles, yeah. Like if you live in the city and you don't live too far, like if you live within 10 kilometers of your work, that's not so bad. You can make it to work and back, right? But a lot of people, I think, are going to be working from home like we saw in COVID. Just because it's like, especially like Canada and the United States, like everybody lives like 100 miles away from their fucking work, right? So, like I live close to my work, but even at that, like, I can only go so far on a bike, right? I work like, all over the little towns, right? So it's yeah, there's that. Yeah, I wish I could do everything within like a 5 or 10 minute biking. Like if I had a riding lawnmower, I would take on the graveyard, and that's like cutting it once every 2 weeks, and that's like 5 minutes. Like I could actually literally, put load up with gas and everything. Takes me about an hour to cut. 2 hours to cut. I could do that. Drive the riding mower there and back. You know what I mean? That would be good. I might talk to my aunt about that. Say, has anybody put in for the bid for this year? And, what's needed. Maybe I'll talk to my dad about that, because working in the actual town itself would, save me a lot from having to go to the neighboring town and stuff. I don't mind because I can make it, but, that's the furthest. I can't make it to the third town. It's way too far. And I do like the biking and stuff. I need a lighter bike by about half, from 50 pounds to maybe 25 pounds or something like that. But anyway, I digress. So I got other things I want to get done today, so I'm going to get that done. Yeah, there we go. Who knows what kind of crazy we're going to see. Stay safe, stay sane, stock up. So anyway, rate, subscribe, share, comment, like. Be true to yourself, be true to others. Always do the right thing. Have yourselves a great day, eh?